For centuries, the galaxy's most powerful civilizations watched humans with a mix of curiosity and disdain. They were primitive in their eyes, a species caught in cycles of conflict and struggle with no higher purpose than to fight and survive across their small planet Earth. They did not understand how this tiny speck in the vast universe could produce anything of value. But the humans were not what they seemed. The Galactic Council had long seen itself as the protector of peace and order in the cosmos. Their fleets were vast, and their weapons more powerful than anything the universe had ever seen. They had witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, and watched civilizations blossom and wither, but never had they encountered a species like humanity. It all began when the Zarkon arrived, a race of tall, powerful beings with skin that shimmered like metal and eyes that glowed with the light of distant stars. They hailed from a distant star system beyond the galactic center, and they were known for their ability to conquer entire worlds with a single strike. Their technology was unparalleled. They had conquered and enslaved countless species across the galaxy, and now they set their sights on Earth. The Zarkon had been monitoring human activity for some time before they made contact. They had seen the early signs of humanity's expansion into space and had decided to offer them a place in the galactic order. The invitation was simple: join them in their empire and share in the bounty of the universe, or refuse and face annihilation. The choice, they said, would be up to the humans. They landed their ships on Earth with an air of superiority and confidence. Their leaders addressed the human governments and laid out their offer with all the grace and diplomacy of a master negotiating with an inferior species. They spoke of peace, trade, and a future where humanity could rise beyond its limitations and join the stars. But the humans were wary. Their history had taught them that nothing came without a price, and they were not fools. At first, the humans did not know what to make of the Zarkon. Their scientists analyzed the alien technology and were astounded by its complexity. Their politicians debated the implications of such an offer. Some spoke of the potential benefits, while others warned of the dangers of trusting an alien race so clearly superior in strength. But one thing became clear as the weeks passed: the Zarkon's offers were not as benevolent as they seemed. What the Zarkon did not know was that humanity had a secret. The galaxy had underestimated their will to survive, their ability to adapt and learn in ways that other species could not imagine. Humans did not follow a strict code of conduct. They did not hold to the same values as the rest of the galaxy. Their emotions were raw, their instincts wild, and their ability to change the course of their future was unmatched. The first hint of trouble came when the Zarkon asked for a demonstration of humanity's technology. As a show of goodwill, what they did not expect was the humans' ability to reverse engineer their advanced technology within weeks, turning their weapons against them in ways they could never have anticipated. The Zarkon had thought they were inviting a new ally into their fold, but instead they had awakened a sleeping giant. Now, with the tables turned, the humans began to prepare themselves. Their scientists and military began working in secret on ways to protect their planet from the impending invasion. But what the Zarkon had failed to realize was that humanity had already won the most important battle, the battle of the mind. And when the Zarkon realized this, it was already too late. The first contact went smoothly, or so. The Zarkon thought. They were confident that humanity would bend to their will. The humans sat at the table during negotiations with calm faces, but underneath that calm was a growing suspicion that gnawed at them. Their leaders knew something was wrong. The Zarkon's promises of peace and prosperity felt too perfect, too calculated for comfort. Yet they couldn't ignore the potential for advancement that came with their offer. As the days passed, the humans began to analyze the details of the Zarkon's offer closer. It became clear that their supposed benevolence came with strings attached. The Zarkon wanted Earth's resources and a place to expand their empire, not the peaceful cooperation they had initially claimed. The humans were no strangers to the idea of a powerful empire making demands. They had lived through centuries of war and colonization and knew the cost of trusting invaders. It wasn't long before the Zarkon's true intentions began to reveal themselves. Their request to establish mining colonies on Earth became more urgent. Their demands for access to certain locations on the planet grew more specific, and they began to send their own experts to evaluate the best ways to extract resources from the Earth itself. The humans grew uneasy with each passing day. They were starting to understand that they were being treated as little more than a stepping stone for the Zarkon's imperial ambitions. The moment came when the Zarkon made their intentions clear. They demanded access to the human military's most advanced technologies under the guise of sharing knowledge. Humanity was expected to hand over their cutting-edge weaponry in exchange for even more alien tech. But this time the humans had a different response. Instead of agreeing, they turned inward. They began asking questions that the Zarkon did not expect. How would this alliance protect their planet from outside threats? How could the Zarkon be trusted when their actions didn't match their words? This shift in tone caught the Zarkon off guard. Their once calm diplomatic posture faltered as they tried to reassure humanity, but the humans were no longer listening. Their leaders began to see that peace with the Zarkon was not a realistic option, and an even darker thought began to form within their minds. If the Zarkon were going to force their way into Earth's future, it would be up to the humans to decide how much they were willing to fight for their freedom. In the shadows, the human military and scientists had already begun to prepare for the worst. They had been studying the Zarkon's technology from the moment it had arrived on Earth. Their engineers had been reverse engineering alien devices. Using the knowledge of their brightest minds, they had unlocked pieces of technology that even the Zarkon had not expected. Humans had a talent for adapting alien technology at an astounding rate, something that worried the Zarkon deeply. As the Zarkon began to pressure the human governments further, the humans made a choice. They would no longer play the role of the meek lesser species. Instead, they would do what they did best: survive and fight back. The Zarkon may have thought themselves conquerors of the galaxy, but humanity would show them that no one could predict the unpredictable. It was in this moment of realization that the humans began to turn the tables. They saw the Zarkon not as invincible conquerors, but as invaders to be repelled. And even as their enemies made their next moves, the humans were already thinking 3 steps ahead. They were ready for a battle unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first strike came when the Zarkon least expected it. They had begun to settle into the idea that humans were simply too weak to resist their overwhelming power. But humanity was already preparing to surprise them. In the quietest corners of the world, secret operations were being carried out by human scientists and military leaders working together in a desperate bid to turn the tide. They had reverse-engineered the Zarkon's technology and discovered weaknesses hidden beneath the shiny exterior. The humans had a plan, and it was about to unfold in a way the Zarkon could never have predicted. It started with a simple disruption of their communication network. The Zarkon had no idea how their entire fleet had been hacked so quickly, or why their encrypted signals were suddenly broadcasting to human receivers. But in that moment they lost control of their own systems, and that was all humanity needed to strike the first blow. Using a mix of human ingenuity and repurposed alien tech, the humans launched a coordinated attack on a key Zarkon supply base, hidden deep within the Amazon rainforest. The humans didn't just fight with weapons, they fought with their minds and their ability to improvise on the fly. The Zarkon's soldiers arrived expecting a show of force, only to find themselves ambushed by guerrilla tactics they had never seen before. The humans fought as though the very land itself was their ally, using their surroundings to their advantage. The Zarkon were overwhelmed by the humans' unpredictability and raw aggression. In the dense jungle, the alien soldiers struggled to adapt to the chaotic fighting style of the humans. It was clear now to the Zarkon that humanity wasn't the passive species they had assumed them to be. These weren't just primitive creatures who could be easily subdued. No, the humans were smart and adaptable. Their ability to fight back in ways the Zarkon had never considered shook them to their core. The humans didn't play by any set of rules. They bent the environment to their will and used the alien technology against its creators. While the Zarkon attempted to regroup and send reinforcements, the humans continued to strike in secret, launching attacks from hidden bunkers built beneath their cities and deep in their mountain ranges. They didn't need large armies or overwhelming firepower. They just needed surprise and tactics. The Zarkon didn't understand what they were dealing with yet, and every time they thought they had a grip on the situation, humanity pulled the rug out from under them. One of the most surprising attacks came when the humans targeted a Zarkon weapons factory in the middle of the Sahara Desert, using nothing but a handful of human pilots and repurposed fighter jets. They launched an attack with precision timing and coordination, something the Zarkon hadn't thought possible for a species so reliant on brute force. The humans struck hard and fast, disabling the factory's defenses before the Zarkon could even comprehend what was happening. The Zarkon had never fought a species like this. Before, they had expected a quick and easy conquest, but instead they found themselves being pushed back at every turn. Each battle left them more confused and frustrated. They had tried to subjugate humanity, but instead they had awakened a force of nature unlike anything they had encountered in the galaxy. Humans fought not just with weapons, but with willpower and intelligence, something the Zarkon had sorely underestimated. By now, the Zarkon knew they were facing something more than just a resistance. They were up against a species capable of doing the impossible. No matter how many times they attacked, the humans kept coming back with more cunning and more resolve. The Zarkon were not just fighting humans, they were fighting a species that could never be tamed or controlled. And the more they learned about humanity, the more they realized that they had made a grave mistake underestimating them. The Zarkon's confidence was beginning to falter, but they were still a formidable force, and they believed that sheer numbers and advanced technology would eventually break humanity's spirit. Yet every time they pushed forward, the humans found a way to resist. Their tactics were becoming less effective, and their morale was quickly declining. The Zarkon had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and fight with relentless persistence, no matter the odds. As the Zarkon launched more assaults against Earth's cities and military bases, humanity fought back in ways that confused their invaders. The humans no longer relied solely on conventional warfare. They had learned how to turn the Zarkon's own weapons against them. They would seize alien technology and reverse engineer it with astonishing speed. Each time the Zarkon thought they had control over a battle, a new human strategy would emerge and shift the tide. The human resistance groups grew more coordinated and more inventive. By the day, they began sharing resources and tactics from one nation to another. Their military leaders worked side by side with civilian engineers and hackers who had been studying alien tech for weeks. The humans learned quickly how to infiltrate and sabotage Zarkon command posts, cutting off communication between their fleets, disabling supply lines, and even capturing alien soldiers for interrogation to learn their weaknesses. What the Zarkon hadn't counted on was the human ability to improvise in the heat of battle. In one particularly daring mission, a small group of human soldiers infiltrated a Zarkon command ship deep in the heart of the Pacific Ocean. They snuck aboard using stealth technology they had developed themselves and planted explosives throughout the ship's power grid. When the ship's systems went down, the Zarkon were thrown into chaos, and the humans had gained a vital victory. With each successful strike, the human forces grew bolder. They no longer feared the Zarkon. They had learned to outthink them, to anticipate their moves, and counter them with ruthless efficiency. The Zarkon began to lose their composure. Their once unshakable confidence was now replaced with doubt. They had faced countless civilizations in their quest to conquer the galaxy, but none had fought back like this. The humans' unpredictability became their greatest weapon. They fought in ways that the Zarkon could not comprehend. They used the environment to their advantage. They would disappear into the mountains or the cities only to strike from unexpected angles. They would lure Zarkon patrols into traps that the aliens could never foresee. They made the terrain an ally and used it to its full potential. The Zarkon began to realize that this was not a war they could win with brute force alone. No amount of firepower or military strategy could break the humans' will to survive. In every battle they fought, the humans proved that they were willing to sacrifice everything to defend their planet and protect their way of life. As the months wore on, the Zarkon found themselves retreating from the front lines. They could no longer afford to send their most advanced troops into battle without facing devastating losses. Humanity had shown them that no matter how powerful they were, their arrogance and overconfidence had led them to underestimate a species that was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The humans were not just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to show the galaxy that they could not be conquered And as the Zarkon pulled back to regroup, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. They had no intention of surrendering, and they had no fear of what the Zarkon would do next. The Zarkon were starting to feel the weight of their miscalculation. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, but they weren't about to give up their hold on Earth so easily. They called for reinforcements from across the galaxy, bringing in their most elite forces, the ones who had crushed civilizations before. These were their best soldiers, cybernetic warriors, designed for precision and lethality. The Zarkon believed that with these new troops they would finally break the human resistance and claim Earth as their own. The elite forces landed with advanced weaponry and armor so powerful that the humans could barely comprehend it. These soldiers were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything the humans had faced before. They moved with deadly precision. Every attack was calculated, every maneuver executed flawlessly. The humans were forced to change their strategies in response to this new threat. They could no longer rely on their guerrilla tactics alone. They had to find a way to outsmart an enemy that had no weaknesses. But the Zarkon had failed to understand one crucial thing about humanity. The humans were not just survivors. They were innovators. They adapted quickly. They evolved on the fly, and every new challenge they faced only made them stronger. The human forces realized that to take on the cybernetic warriors, they would need to think beyond conventional tactics. They couldn't simply fight fire with fire. They had to exploit the one advantage the humans had always possessed: their ability to think unpredictably. It started with a human engineer who discovered a flaw in the Zarkon's cybernetic soldiers. Their neural processors were incredibly advanced, but not invulnerable. With a few tweaks to existing human technology, they developed a signal jammer that disrupted the communication between the cybernetic warriors and their central control units. The warriors suddenly found themselves confused and vulnerable to human attacks that exploited their lack of autonomy. The humans wasted no time using this newfound advantage. In one brutal battle in the middle of the African savanna, human soldiers set up traps, luring the cybernetic warriors into positions where their technology would fail. When the warriors tried to engage, they found their weapons and armor malfunctioning as the humans struck with surgical precision, hitting weak points that no one had ever anticipated. The cybernetic warriors were overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of the human assault. As the cybernetic warriors began to fall, the Zarkon started to panic. They had never faced an enemy that could break through their perfect soldiers with such ease and ingenuity. But the humans weren't finished yet. They had learned that the Zarkon's elite forces were only a part of the equation. They knew that the key to victory wasn't just defeating these new soldiers, it was to force the Zarkon to rethink everything they had known about warfare. While the Zarkon focused on their enhanced troops, the humans launched another attack on the Zarkon supply lines, using sabotage and guerrilla tactics to cripple their ability to regroup and refuel. The humans had perfected the art of striking where the enemy was weakest, and they were using it to their advantage. Each victory gave the human forces more hope and more momentum. They were no longer fighting just to survive, they were fighting to win. The Zarkon began to realize that the war was slipping away from them. They had brought their most advanced soldiers and weapons to Earth, but they could not break the spirit of humanity. No matter how many times they tried, humanity just kept coming back, with more determination, more ingenuity, and more of the one thing the Zarkon couldn't replicate: their sheer will to fight for their planet. As the Zarkon regrouped and attempted to bring reinforcements from their homeworld, the human resistance continued to grow stronger. Their victories against the cybernetic warriors had sent a shockwave through the alien command. The Zarkon had never imagined their forces could be outsmarted on such a scale, and now they found themselves unable to maintain the momentum they once had. The humans were proving to be a far more formidable foe than anyone in the galaxy had predicted. Human governments that had once bickered and divided began to unite in ways they had never done before. They shared resources, strategies, and intelligence across borders, no longer concerned with national identity, but with the survival of their species. Scientists worked tirelessly to develop new weapons, while military leaders coordinated massive global strikes against Zarkon strongholds. Even civilian groups formed alliances with the resistance, creating a network of spies and saboteurs that infiltrated alien-controlled zones. The human military had become an unstoppable force as they adapted alien technology into their own. Their engineers developed weapons that could counteract the Zarkon's energy shields and anti-gravity devices, while their cyber experts managed to infiltrate even the most secure Zarkon communication networks. Every success fueled the human resolve. They were no longer just trying to survive the Zarkon invasion. They were now fighting for total liberation. It was in this environment that the humans launched their boldest strike. Yet they decided to target the heart of the Zarkon's command network, their main fleet that had been stationed in orbit above Earth. For the past several months, the Zarkon had grown complacent in their perceived superiority and had made the mistake of letting their fleet remain unguarded by the kind of security measures that the humans had learned to exploit. A small human strike force, led by an experienced pilot named Sarah Stokes, infiltrated the Zarkon fleet. By using a stolen cloaking device adapted from their own tech, the humans snuck past the fleet's outer defenses and managed to plant explosives on the ship's power cores. This would disrupt the entire Zarkon military infrastructure and cripple their ability to respond to any future attacks. The plan was dangerous, but the humans had already learned that their greatest strength lay in their willingness to risk everything for victory. At the same time as the fleet was being sabotaged, the ground forces launched their own series of attacks on Zarkon bases spread across the planet. No location was safe anymore. The humans were everywhere, and the Zarkon found themselves stretched thin, unable to maintain control of all the territories they had conquered in their initial blitz. These coordinated attacks on multiple fronts caught the Zarkon off guard. They had been expecting the humans to follow conventional battle tactics, but once again, the humans had proven that their ingenuity was their greatest weapon. The Zarkon found themselves cornered by the sheer scale of humanity's defiance. Their forces scattered and disorganized as the once unbeatable fleet in orbit above Earth began to crumble under the weight of human attacks. One by one, the flagship ships fell apart, their energy shields shattered, and their power cores detonated in massive explosions that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The humans had finally struck at the heart of the Zarkon war machine. With their command structure in disarray and their fleet rendered useless, the Zarkon were forced to retreat from Earth. But the humans knew this was only a temporary victory. The Zarkon were not a species that gave up easily. They would regroup and try again. But the humans had already made their point. They were not to be underestimated, and they were ready for whatever came next. The Zarkon had retreated, but they were not defeated. Their pride and sense of superiority could not allow them to simply abandon Earth. After all they had already lost so much, their fleet was crippled, their soldiers scattered, and their once unshakable confidence shattered. But they were determined to make one final push to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. The Zarkon regrouped on the outskirts of the solar system, calling for reinforcements from across the galaxy. But the humans knew they could not afford to let them reorganize. Earth's governments and military leaders were united in their resolve. They understood that this was the final battle, and if they failed, it could mean the end of humanity's future as a free species. The human resistance, now a global force, began to prepare for the inevitable counterattack. They knew the Zarkon would come again, stronger and more ruthless. But the humans had learned valuable lessons from the previous conflicts. They had been forced to think outside the box, and now they had advanced technology, military strategies, and an unbreakable will to defend their planet no matter the cost. Human scientists had made incredible progress in their research into alien tech, adapting Zarkon energy weapons to function with human technology, and developing a new class of defensive shields that could withstand even the most advanced Zarkon weaponry. The humans had not only learned to fight like their enemy, but they had begun to surpass them in key areas of warfare. Their engineers created fighter ships capable of maneuvering in ways that the Zarkon ships couldn't match, and their hackers had developed tools to disrupt Zarkon communications before they could even make contact with their troops. It was a race against time. The Zarkon reinforcements were arriving, and they brought with them an army of warships and soldiers enhanced with cybernetic implants far beyond what humanity had ever seen. But the human forces were ready. They had made the decision to take the fight to the Zarkon before they could reestablish their dominance. a human fleet, led by Commander Sarah Stokes, launched a daring attack on the Zarkon's reinforcements in the outer reaches of the solar system using newly developed stealth technology. They infiltrated the alien formation and struck when the Zarkon least expected it. The human ships tore through the enemy ranks, disabling their warships with pinpoint strikes aimed at their engines and weapon systems, while the humans employed hit-and-run tactics that left the Zarkon scrambling to protect their forces. But the Zarkon were not without their own countermeasures. Their reinforcements had come prepared, equipped with cloaking devices and advanced energy shields that made them nearly impossible to track or target easily. Still, the humans had learned to use the environment to their advantage. They drew the Zarkon into asteroid fields and debris clouds where their superior agility and smaller, more maneuverable ships gave them the upper hand. The Zarkon retaliated with everything they had, deploying their most advanced war machines to crush the humans once and for all. But they underestimated humanity's resolve. The human fleet, battered and bruised, kept fighting with unmatched determination, knowing that this battle would decide the fate of their planet. As the two sides clashed in the cold, dark expanse of space, the humans proved something the Zarkon had failed to understand from the very beginning: that no matter how advanced their technology or how vast their empire, humanity's strength lay not in their weapons, but in their unity, their ability to endure against all odds, and their unwavering belief that they would never be slaves. The final battle was upon them. The humans had thrown everything they had into the fight: every ship, every soldier, every piece of technology they could muster. But even with their best efforts, the Zarkon still held their ground. Their advanced warships, cloaking devices, and cybernetic soldiers were formidable opponents, but the humans were no longer simply fighting to survive. They were fighting to win, to prove to the galaxy that they would never bow down to anyone. As the two fleets collided in the cold expanse of space, the humans launched their final assault, a massive wave of ships, led by Commander Sarah Stokes herself. The Zarkon unleashed wave after wave of firepower, but the humans were relentless. They dodged, they weaved, and they fought back with everything they had learned from their earlier battles. They had come to understand the Zarkon's strengths and weaknesses, and now they used that knowledge to turn the tide in their favor. One by one, the Zarkon's warships fell. The humans didn't just attack the ships. They targeted the systems that kept them running. Their advanced energy shields flickered out as human pilots fired on their power cores, and once the shields were down, the Zarkon were left vulnerable to the humans' attacks. Their once mighty fleet crumbled under the pressure. But the Zarkon were not ready to admit defeat. They had one last card to play, a weapon of unimaginable power hidden deep within their flagship, a doomsday device that could destroy all of Earth's cities in one devastating blow. The humans knew they had to stop it before it could be activated, and so Commander Stokes led a small team of elite soldiers on a daring mission to board the Zarkon flagship and disable the weapon. The mission was perilous, but the humans were determined to succeed. They infiltrated the massive warship, using their knowledge of Zarkon technology to disable security systems and bypass defenses. The closer they got to the core of the ship, the more dangerous the mission became, but they pressed on, driven by the thought of saving their planet from total annihilation. The Zarkon commander, a ruthless and calculating leader, watched from his control room as the humans made their way toward the weapon he had spent years building, the pride of his empire, the instrument of Earth's destruction. But even he could see that the humans were not like any enemy he had ever faced before. They fought with a fury that could not be quelled and a resilience that no weapon could break. As the human team finally reached the control room, they found the doomsday device ready to fire. The countdown had already begun. With only minutes to spare, the team fought their way through the Zarkon soldiers stationed at the core, using their superior tactics and the technology they had adapted from the Zarkon themselves. But the Zarkon commander had one final trick up his sleeve. He activated a self-destruct mechanism in an attempt to take the humans down with him. But the humans had learned from every battle they had fought. They had come to expect the unexpected, and with seconds to spare, they deactivated the self-destruct and shut down the doomsday weapon with a precise strike to its core. The Zarkon flagship once the symbol of their power, collapsed in on itself as the humans escaped just in time. The war was over the Zarkon, their fleet destroyed and their weapon neutralized. Had no choice but to retreat. Their invasion of Earth had failed and humanity had emerged victorious. The humans had proven not just that they could fight, but that they could defeat the deadliest conquerors in the galaxy. They had shown that no matter how overwhelming the odds, they would never be slaves. Earth's survivors celebrated the victory, but they knew that this was only the beginning. The Zarkon had learned the hard way that humans were not to be underestimated, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had shown the universe that they were a force to be reckoned with, and their future was no longer defined by their conquerors, but by their own will to rise and thrive.